and welcome to another Stately Office Hours. This is where us, the team at Stately, walk you through everything that's new with Stately and with XState. We have so much to share with you this week. I posted on the social platforms that if you were going to come to any office hours lately, this is the one to come to because we have just had a massive release. We've been adding features all week since that even went out. So we've got so much to share with you. So if you like demos, you are not going to be disappointed today. Let's start off as we do every week or every few weeks, whenever we do office hours, with an intro to the team who are here today. So I'm Laura. I do advocacy, education, all sorts of things for Stately. David?
Hey, I'm David, founder at Stately, creator of XState.
Fazad?
Hey. I'm Farzad. I do engineering and stuff at Stately.
And Nick?
I'm Nick, and I do design and stuff at Stately.
Everyone's doing stuff. And Kevin?
Hi, I'm Kevin, and I'm doing engineering stuff at Stately.
We do so much stuff here. So without further ado, I think maybe it was about a week and a half ago that we finally released what we'd been calling codename blocks, but I guess its official name is the supercharged canvas because there's so much about the canvas that has now been supercharged. So we thought this week we'd give Nick a break because Nick has been demoing this a lot lately because he did so much of the design for it. And I'm going to demo some of the new features that we have here. So bear with me while I share my screen and make sure I get the right one. So I'm just going to start off with it. This is a whopping machine, just to just give you the full impact of what it looks like when you use colors. So this is one of the new features that we have, which is for pro users, and that is colors. This is actually a machine that is from the studio itself. It is our editor page machine. And what I've done here is I've highlighted states and transitions, and I've actually done it thematically. So we've got an error state here that is in red. So if I can zoom in on that. So this is a red error state. I also have all the user events we've colored in yellow, and all the system events we have colored in purple. This is something that Kevin and I were playing with in one of our sessions that we do together with the editor every week. Now, the way that you would add colors to a state or a transition is here you've got a little palette, and you can just pick from the color that you like in the palette. And if I select a different one, you'll be able to see a bit better that it would also preview the color as you're hovering over it. So you can see all these beautiful colors. Default is gray if you're in dark mode. But if we switch to light mode, you can see that default is white, and you still get your nice colors in light mode. It's actually a bit easier to see if I show you some states rather than events. There we go. There you go. That's a very nice colored check for offline machine state there. Let me just undo that briefly because I've just realized that I've embedded this machine in the docs, so I don't want to change all the colors right now. So colors is really great for that in order to be able to group things. You could also do things like coloring error states in red or success states in green. I've got a few other examples in here. Oh, here's a little showcase of all the different colors you can use. I'll switch us back to dark mode. I think there we go. Although I like both modes. I think light mode looks great with colors. So here is a variety of all of the different colors that you could choose. This is a classic traffic light example that you might have seen in the XState docs in the past. So you can just use it for a decorative effect too, if you'd like. So having red and yellow and green for the different states in a traffic light. So colors is something that a lot of people have asked us for. So we thought that it's got big impact, and accordingly Nick has redesigned the entirety of light mode and dark mode so that all the colors work really well together. And I think you'll find, and you'll agree with me, it's a lot easier on the eye as well. So your machines are going to look great. Another thing that we can show you is now you can design pretty much nearly all of the logic for your machine directly from the canvas. So if I say wanted to add to this traffic light, I can here from this little plus menu, I now have all of these different options. So I can add child states and self transitions, which I could add before, and descriptions. I can also add tags, which are brand new, and those will also be exported as tags in XState if you export as code as well. You can also add your invoked actors, your entry actions, your exit actions. If you want to add something to a transition, you can add your guard conditions from here as well, including actions and descriptions. And so if I go to add, I'll show you a tag, for example. Now, I'm just going to call this tag red for now, a little bit repetitive. But one of the great things about these blocks is that I can actually now copy my tags from one to another. So that is really handy to now be able to copy these blocks from one state to another or one transition to another. And we can do exactly the same thing if we were to have an entry action. So I'm going to what's an entry action for red. I guess turn on red light. And it may be an incorrect traffic light, but I can copy this to the yellow state there as well. So you can very easily copy these effects across state and state and transition. You can even copy them from machine to machine, which is really handy too. All of this is part of a much more refined state chart design in general. You can see now that you've got these states kind of act, the names are like headings, and all of the information about them are grouped underneath. So maybe I want to add a description here. So yellow tells you to wait. And I can edit that directly from the canvas itself. And I can edit this and rename it from the canvas itself. I can even, from the actions, use some of the XState built-in actions as well. So if you wanted to add something like this, you could add the assignment accordingly, and all of this would be exported as code as well. Now, this is like, there's so many things here. I'm trying to pick between what I'm going to show next. Transition routing and translucency. Now, I'm sure I've got a good machine to show this. In fact, the editor page machine would be a great one for this because it's pretty busy. And often when you've got a machine that's got a lot going on, you can end up with overlapping paths. You can have overlapping states and transitions. And so there's a couple of features that we've got that work really well in tandem. So for example, now events and also this part of the states have translucency to them. So if you end up with overlapping things, so if I make some of these overlap, what you'll be able to see is that you can see the transition lines running underneath the events here. And this translucency makes it much easier to spot where all of your connections go. We also, when you add new states, we have this, now it jumped instantly. The transition paths will try to work their way around the states to prevent overlapping states and events as much as possible. And so you can see if I'm moving these about, this is going to try and wrap around in a logical way. So that really makes all the difference when you've got these big overcrowded machines. Now I'm trying to look, hide the UI. Another great thing when you have such a massive machine and you're really trying to focus on it, you've got all this stuff in the UI going on. Now, bearing in mind that it's quite overcrowded at the moment because I've got it zoomed in to make it easier for you to see. But you don't want panels everywhere if you just want to focus on the machine. So first of all, of course, you can hide the left panel here. It gives me a bit more space. Delete that new state. If you go to the editor menu here, you can now go to view and you can show and hide the UI. You can see here that you can also use the command dot or command full stop or command period, depending on where you're from. You can use that keyboard shortcut to hide it as well. So this would be an easy way to hide the majority of the UI. You can still access the menu. You can still see the name of your machine. But that gives you a lot more space to just work around your machine and to be able to do what you need to do without everything else getting in the way. Probably really good for presentations as well if you want to share it with your team. And there you go. I'm just going to use the keyboard shortcut and bring the UI back just like that. And what else have I got? Oh, this is one that snuck in at the very last minute, and it is export to XState version 5 beta. Now, XState version 5 is in itself in beta, and this feature is also in beta. but it's been much requested so that you can make sure that your machines are compatible with XState version 5. If you go to code, and here you can see that you can choose from JavaScript, TypeScript, JSON, and I'll show you a bit about that one later. You can use this toggle to switch between XState version 5 beta, or the default is to just be supported by XState V4. I think, did you see anything change there? There we go. Yeah, so you can see that the code will change accordingly as you go through. Please try this out and let us know if you come across any issues, because this feature itself is in beta, and so we will have things that might not work completely correctly, especially as XState itself, version 5 is in beta. So we'll be able to fix it and make it better as we're going. But so far it's working really well, I found anyway. And have I missed anything, team, on the supercharged canvas? That was a real whistle-stop tour.
Just a small detail. I noticed that the tree view in the left panel also has the colors reflected of the states. That looks kind of cool.
Yeah. This is a really nice thing that Nick just added in really quickly just after the release. And so these are colored as well. I do think that's
and actually it was a request on Canny that a user posted after they saw our release, and so we saw that was a good idea and just took care of it.
Well, and you know how I love to include the feedback request if I can find. There we go. So if you have a suggestion like that Nick can find and grab and implement in about 5 minutes, you can go to feedback.stately.ai, and there we have a whole bunch of features that other people have requested that you can upvote, and you can also add your own requests for features there. And we are using that to prioritize features. Also, if you do upvote a feature or add a request there, it will be the fastest way for you to know if that feature has been implemented, because you'll get an update as soon as we've completed it, as soon as it's been released as well. Another very small, quick little feature that got added in was also, and I think this was on David, we've got a little filter for the machines here at the moment as well. So if, like me, you have projects that have loads of machines in them, like for example, our studio, the project that we have, the repo we have for that has 50 machines in it. So it's a lot of machines to scroll your way through. So now you can just use this to filter the names of the machines to find the machine that you're after. So if I went like traffic, there you go, I can find my traffic light machine very easily. And yes, I have multiple machines with the same name. I don't really recommend that as an approach. It's really confusing. And I think that is that for now. Now, I've been focusing on looking at my screen, so I haven't looked if we've got any questions. Do the colors appear in the state machine config too, asks Nick. No, they don't. Right now, the colors are used in the studio because it's not necessarily useful as part of the code. Although I think we have had discussions about potentially including that in meta information in the future. Am I right about that, David?
Yeah. And right now we have layout information, of course, in the layout string. And that's when you're using the extension. And by the way, this updated UI is not part of the extension yet. We're still working on that and working on overhauling the entire extension. We're planning to do that. But it does bring to mind that we should definitely have the layout strings, or sorry, the layouts information and other meta information closer to the actual states. So that's something that we're thinking about. And so once that's in place, we could also add other things such as annotations and colors and other layout information directly in the state chart that you export to JavaScript or TypeScript, and also give you the option whether you want to show those or not. So that is something we're still planning, but yeah, we want you to be able to copy paste the machine back to Stately and see your colors in the layout information too, of course.
Yeah, it is always useful in that way. Cedric asks, is it still planned to replace the viz with the editor, like a simulated mode?
Yes, that also requires a big overhaul too, but we have done a lot of work on making sure that code that you import from XState is accurately reflected in the editor. There's still a few tiny missing pieces, such as multiple transitions for events and small things like that, and also accurately representing the implementations so that we don't lose that information. So yeah, eventually you're going to see Stately Viz be replaced by Stately Editor, and it feel pretty much exactly the same, including your code view on the right-hand side. So that's something that Farzad definitely has planned.
I love that John says it's not synthwave, but it's still looking great. Nice work, Nick. And yeah, I would agree with that. I think Nick doesn't jump on trends. Nick designs things that are about making things easier to use. So it is not just synthwave. It is makes everything much clearer as well. Martin says the grid can be hidden now too, or it was there for a while but discovered it recently. I think it's been there for a while, but it was pretty hidden before. But yeah, you can go to the same location as showing and hiding the UI, and you can show and hide the canvas grid as well. Really useful if you're wanting to take screenshots and things like that, or if you just find it a little bit too visually noisy. Some people prefer the grid, some people prefer it without. I like the grid. I'm into it. It's part of our original design, as it were. Cedric asks, when will these features be available in the VS Code extension?
Hard to say. There's a lot of moving parts there because there's the VS Code extension. There's also the what we call the machine extractor, and that's the thing that translates your JavaScript and TypeScript code over to something that a visual editor can understand. And before, especially with the original visualizer, we were literally evaluating the machine in a sandbox, and that's not really the best plan, and it's not super robust. So instead, we're going to be taking the approach of using TypeScript itself to analyze the AST, or abstract syntax tree, and then extract what the states and edges are and how they could be represented on the diagraph. So there's that. There's also the fact that right now the extension is offline first, and instead we need to move it to be offline capable, because the good side of offline first is it's completely offline. The downside is that you don't get these over-the-air updates. So that's why if you're using the extension right now, it feels really old. So we sort of have to overhaul the extension in order to make it both connected to Stately and also available offline. So we're going to be working on that within the coming months.
Great. Now, Jan asks, hi folks, not sure if you've talked about this before, but what are your plans on making XState easier to use on the back end, especially across requests, i.e. serializing and deserializing execution state, etc.?
Oh, so this is an interesting question. And by the way, we started doing streams, me and Gavin, our backend person, on doing serverless workflows. So yeah, it's a really interesting topic, and we've just scratched the surface with our last stream, but we are going to be talking about just how you could take these workflows that you create in XState and execute them in either serverful, I guess you could call it, or serverless contexts such as Lambda, Cloudflare workers, etc. And we're going to be making many more demos for doing that. Now, the best way to do this is to use XState V5 beta, because that is going to allow you to recursively persist and hydrates the state of your actor system. But yeah, so this is something we definitely have planned. I see that you're also talking about serializing and deserializing execution state. So one of the big differences between using something like XState for the backend and using other things such as durable functions or temporal or things like that is that with durable functions and temporal, you're essentially snapshotting every single, I guess you could call it execution trace of your program. And then you have to replay those all to get back to the state, making sure not to execute those side effects. However, with XState, since all of that is declarative, the most that you really need to do is say, I was in this state, please restore to this state. So you don't actually have to replay all of those events. And so it ends up being much faster and in my opinion, a more declarative approach to handling workflows, and something that doesn't require you to completely overhaul your execution environment, and something that could work in other languages too. All that to say is that, yeah, we definitely plan on making more examples and even more streams for this.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get Gavin to write more blog posts as well. He wrote a great one about the actor model recently, which I'd recommend you check out. It is at our blog at stately.ai/blog. Now, John asks, will the little utilities like not be coming to the guards UI?
Yeah. So now that we have the foundation in place with blocks and everything for adding these features to the Stately Studio, it's going to be a lot easier to add things like that too. For example, parameters on guards, but also these what we call higher order guards in XState V5 and, or, and not. And there's more things that we're going to be including, such as input and output for actors, and some other neat XState V5 features.
Great. If you're interested in that as a feature, please do add it on the feedback board at feedback.stately.ai. What I'd really love is to see what your use cases are as well, because when we're designing and creating these features, it's really handy for us to have examples on how you use it so that we can see, like, make sure that that's visualized in a way that's understandable for your use case too. So use cases always welcome. I love John's suggestion of serverly.
Love that.
Stately
awesome.
serverly. That is brilliant. So we have more to share. So Kevin, would you be able to show us what was going on with Autosave for pro users? Because this one snuck in very quickly over the last couple of weeks.
Sure, Lara. Yeah. So I would say that Autosave versions is basically the latest iteration on the version history feature. And just to go back and recap what that is, version history allows you to essentially save snapshots of your work as you're working. It also allows you to give them friendly names that you can refer to, and you can view them at any time, and you can even restore your machine to those versions if you'd like to get it back into that state. Let me share my screen here for a second. So, okay, so Autosave versions is basically, as you can imagine, is basically Stately Studio automatically saving versions for you. And this is actually a feature that was requested also by some of our pro users. So we're very happy to be able to get that together. And in this feature, basically, the reason for doing this is because we'd like to be able to save these versions at regular intervals. And that basically relieves you of the need to remember to do that yourself. And another reason is because it can give you greater confidence against the loss of your hard work. So just an example, let's suppose you're working and then you accidentally close your browser window. We want to make sure that we're able to capture that for you. So when is this happening? Basically, when we detect that you've made changes to your work, then we are auto-saving a version approximately once an hour, more or less. So in the UI, you can see here, we actually have this new toggle, and it says show autosaved versions. And if you toggle that on, then you'll see I have some additional versions here that were not present before. So the ones that were here before were the ones that I named explicitly. And then here are some autosaved ones where you can actually tell the difference because they have the little bot icon there instead of your avatar. And they also say autosaved and then the timestamp when they were autosaved. Now, you can still rename these if you want. So let's say latest auto. You can give them friendly names. And you can basically treat them like any other version. So you can go back and view them. You can also restore to them. You can delete them. Do everything that you would do with a normal version that you created. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, basically, these are being saved on time, like I said. And I think we've got some future ideas about how to make this feature even better. So, for example, we could allow you to configure the way that these are auto-saved, perhaps on a project or on a machine basis. That's something that we'd like to be able to do for other things too, to give you the power to choose. We could also allow you to change the time intervals, so that doesn't have to be an hour. It could be more often or less often. But I'm sure that many of you will have other ideas about how to make this feature even more useful for your own workflows. And so we'd love to hear suggestions via the Canny. And then just one thing to remember, of course, the version history is one of our pro features. And so if you think this is useful, then you're welcome to give it a try with the 30-day trial as well.
Fabulous. And there are so many pro features at the moment. And if you spot our pricing page on the stately.ai website, you'll be able to see a sneak peek of some of the features that might be coming soon as well. Next up, it's a small detail, but it's a small detail that really matters. So David, would you be able to show us about how you've changed the order in which the states are exported when you're exporting as code?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it is pretty small detail, but an important one, especially if you're importing and exporting a lot. Let's say that you have a flow, and this is just a simple onboarding flow, and you have, first, second, third. I'll just do 3 for now. Third. When you're reading this chart, and you know what? Let's add another one too. So third, sorta. Poorly naming these. And then, yeah. So when you're reading this chart, you typically start at the initial state first, and then you follow that. So you would go to second, and then you would go to one of these. So third, and then, maybe let's just call this fourth. So you really expect, when you're exporting the code, you expect these to show up in order. So first, second, third, sorta, and fourth. You can't really see that well. So let me go ahead and zoom in a bit. Hopefully you can see that now. You see how it says first, second, third, and then, well, I can't scroll all the way to the bottom, but you could sort of, we'll fix that. But yeah, so what happens though if we change the order? And I thought that this would be a pain, but it's actually not, because I could just mark this as initial, and then I could just start switching the source and target, which is a pretty fun feature to do. Let's switch the source and target there. So basically make the arrows point the other way. This is pretty fun. Let's delete that. And let's switch the source and target here. Okay, so now in previous versions of the editor, first, since it was the first one you created, would still show up first. But that actually doesn't really make sense, because right now the initial state is fourth. And if we auto layout, you'll see that, visually, this logically makes sense. You would start here and then go third, second, first, etc. And before, this was showing out of order in the code because, again, it was how you put it on. But now we actually changed it so that it shows up in the most logical expected order. So now it would show fourth, third, second, first, and then third, sort of. And that's because you could either go to first, or you could go to third, sort of, from second. So the technical details behind this is fun, and this is why sometimes I mention that we do algorithms a lot here at Stately. This is a breadth first search through the graph, because you do want to start at the initial state and just make your way through these states. So yeah, that's just a more logical order to your states.
That'll make a huge difference. I think if you're one of those people that's often exporting to code, and then a lot of the time you might end up continuing to edit your machine in code, and having it in that logical order makes it so much easier to be able to read your code.
Mm-hmm.
So another feature that we wanted to show you, and I'm going to show you this one because Farzad is being a fly on the wall, but I'm showing you his hard work. And this is, let me add it. This is a new export. So I showed you very briefly earlier. I'm going to go to a slightly simpler machine. Here we go. So this is a nice little initial state machine that's just showing you what an initial state is. So the initial state here is paused. And you can now export your machine as code or as a diagram for Mermaid. And so here you can see that it's generated with this Mermaid friendly, it's kind of plain text-ish. And you can preview it and you can see a Mermaid diagram. Now you can either copy this as your code. Now copying Mermaid code is really useful because it is supported by both GitHub and GitLab. So right now, Stately is not supported by GitHub and GitLab. I mean, I'm sure soon they'll be like, yeah, this is great. Of course, we're going to support it. But for now, Mermaid is. And so you'll be able to use this. Usually you have to put it in code fencing, and you can then use it in your PRs, in your issues, in your discussions on both GitHub and GitLab. and it will display, when it renders, this very cool looking little mermaid diagram. And you can also copy it as SVG if you want to use it in any environment that supports vector graphics, which is really handy. The great thing about SVG is that it is infinitely scalable as well, so you can have nice high quality graphics to show off your state machines if you can't show them in the studio, which is of course the ideal environment. Did I miss anything, Farzad, about Mermaid? No, just that it's not thumbs down in general, just thumbs down. I didn't miss anything. And also this feature is also in beta. So if you notice any errors happening with your diagrams, there are a few use cases that we might still be working through. Please do let us know, and we were going to try and improve the compatibility on those. And Farzad says David takes most of the credit on that feature. Yeah, David, you started it off, and Farzad got it through the door. Is that right?
Actually, no. So Farzad and Mateusz had an experiment early on in which they actually did a bulk of the work. All I did was take that work, clean it up a little bit, and then throw it on the editor. And then Farzad took it and actually took it to the next level. This preview thing was not even part of my original work, and Farzad made it look really good and make it work. So
it's awesome. Good team effort.
Yeah.
That's great. I think that is most of the features we have covered. Oh, we got a question here from John. And John asked, the way the editor is built, is it possible to have keyboard shortcuts on the contextual menu? Oh, that's a good question.
I would say that that's a really good feature. And having keyboard shortcuts for some of the common interactions is something that we've especially discussed. I know Laura has been super interested in that. So that's something that we do want to move towards. It would be awesome to build your state charts just by pressing keyboard shortcuts and typing and being hands off the mouse for the most part.
Yeah, I think it would be a really great feature. It would definitely make it a very accessible experience if we can get that right. And it's something that we're keen to do, where we want to try to put them in all at once so that we can manage a consistent experience across the keyboard shortcuts. It's quite tricky when you're adding one after the other. You don't want it to get out of hand and have keyboard shortcuts that are really complicated. I notoriously have a very small reach, and I can't deal with keyboard shortcuts that are more than a few keys. It's tricky to remember as well. John says 10x the complexity with customizable keyboard shortcuts. Well, I do think that maybe in the future that would be quite a good approach, because often if you are thinking about accessibility, a lot of you may have shortcuts for your assistive technology, and so it would be quite good to be able to customize the shortcut so that it doesn't they don't get confused, and you don't have software interfering with each other. Farzad says, model it as a state chart actor and call it a day. Great. And we wanted to mention, we've had a lot of interest lately in enterprise plans for Stately. David, would you like to chat a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me get it on.
There you go.
Yeah, so we've actually had a lot of interest in what an enterprise plan for Stately would look like. And ever since we've had the Pro plan, there have been people suggesting features, especially custom tailored to their organization and their needs. And so we've seen a lot of things in common. You could think of this as a tentative list, but the things that people are most interested in are, for one, self-hosting options or private instances in which we have a private cloud instance for hosting all of Stately Studio, which includes all of the team and user features and the project organization features, and also the upcoming API, which I will talk about in a minute, or self-hosting. So the ability to take it in a container and deploy it to your own hardware, your own server. And so we think that this is a really intriguing use case because a lot of companies, they don't actually want their logic in the cloud for understandable reasons. And so we also are talking about an embedded studio. And so this is a little bit different than the embedded view that you could now use today, because this would essentially be the editor in which you could not only read machines and simulate them, but also edit them in an embedded mode, and so you could host them in your own apps. Another really important feature, or actually set of features, is the prioritization of both Studio and XState features. And so if these are features that, especially if they're going to be useful to everyone else, but you need them sooner rather than later, then we think it makes sense to prioritize those features as part of the enterprise plan, whether these are features that are exclusive to your organization or something, like I said, that could benefit everyone who uses Stately and XState. Another one is custom exports. Right now we support JavaScript, TypeScript, Mermaid, in a very basic form of JSON, but we do understand that there's the need for more custom export options, a richer JSON format that includes everything, including layouts and other custom metadata that you might need for your specific applications, and also exporting it so that you could use the Stately exports in other languages too, which has been of interest by a few companies. So there's also a Stately API where anything that you do in the studio, you should be able to do via an API. And so this is actually something that's going to be coming to both Pro and Enterprise. So this is something we're still planning out. So I'm going to be talking with Gavin about it soon. And also intelligent analysis. So this sort of extends the Stately API, where we don't want Stately to just be something where you could easily create and export machines, but we also want it to help you with your logic and make your logic as robust as possible. And so that's why if you go to the pricing page right now, it says a custom plan tailored to the requirements of your organization. So again, as we get more interest from people in the enterprise plan, we are actually going to start filling these out with specific features that are going to be included in an enterprise plan. So please, if you're interested in this, then contact us, let us know, book a demo with us, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you about what that enterprise plan could look like.
Great. I'm excited. All the things that we can do. Nick says, Stately Vim mode, please. And John says, so I can never quit out of it. Well, that is a common request, actually. So please go to feedback.stately.ai and there you'll be able to upvote. I'm pretty sure we've already got Vim in there somewhere. And yes, the flow, that is one of the enterprise features that we're talking about, the potential for you to embed the flow in your own application. Staying in the editor forever, as Nick says. So another thing that we wanted to mention, and David spoke a little bit about it earlier, is that we've had a couple of Stately streams lately. You'll be able to watch those back on YouTube and on LinkedIn. You might even be able to find the tweets if you like to scroll back a bit further. And David and I did one very recently, an impromptu stream where we were looking at modeling delete confirmation, which was pretty fun. We had lots of criticisms of our UI design as we were going, but it was really fun to be able to model all the different things that you could do and look at how you could implement that as a state machine and use that to make your UI a lot more robust. And as David mentioned, David and Gavin did a stream where they looked at some of the workflow examples, which you can also find on our blog and in the XState repo in the next branch, because it's V5 examples. Anything else that folks wanted to share this week? I feel like we've run through everything so quickly, but we've covered a huge amount. Or any questions that any of you watching have for us, you know that you can always let us know if you are on YouTube or Twitch in the comments. You can tweet us, you can Instagram us, you can LinkedIn us. Is that what you do on LinkedIn? You can post, share things with us on Mastodon, and you can also find us on Discord, which is at scrolling, discord.gg/xstate. And John says, David really flexing his keyframers skills on that delete video stream. So throwback.
Yeah, it is a throwback. Need some more animations though.
And I'm just going to scroll right back up to one of the first comments we had today from Cedric saying, Laura and David have a super corporate t-shirt today. Yeah, we are rocking our Stately merch today. Somehow managing to do different colors as well. or different not colors, black and white.
We do need more colors in general for our shirts.
Yeah, we do. We could go some blue so that we can blend in with our backgrounds on the screen.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is it for now then. Folks, please let us know if you have any questions that you want us to answer in any upcoming streams or anything you would like us to demo or make you examples for. I've already mentioned that you can request features at feedback.stately.ai. And please just keep in contact with us. Let us know what you're modeling. Let us know what you're making. We'd love to see your machines. That always makes us really happy when we get to see your machines in action. And yeah, join us next time. If you follow us on the socials, you'll be able to find out when our next stream will be. If you subscribe to us on YouTube, you will automatically be notified when we've got a live stream coming up. Oh, and another question just getting in before the end. This is like a tradition now. John says, will the new merge come with the new palette colors? Oh, merch. Will the new merch? Oh, that's a good idea, isn't it?
I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, we don't want to be monochromatic. So
yeah, we're gonna have to do some fun matching digital colors to print colors there, but I'm sure we can work it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm so up for orange. That is my color of the moment, and it will be complementary to the blue. I will be dressed as the upgrade button in the studio.
Just no translucent t-shirts, thank you.
Yeah, no translucent t-shirts. Thank you very much. Great. And on that note, we will see you all again soon. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been Stately, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.